This is Cruise Radio.
I cruise a lot and I always sail with travel insurance. You should too. Get a free quote today at tripinsurance.com.
Here we go.
Broadcasting from the tripinsurance.com studios in Jacksonville, Florida. This is Cruise Radio.
Jan and his wife just returned from a 16-night cruise aboard Explora Journeys Explora 1. It was a repositioning cruise that took him from Europe down to the Caribbean, and he joins us on the line to talk all about it. Welcome, my friend.
It's great to be with you, Doug.
Yeah, I appreciate you taking the time to talk a little bit about Explora Journeys and the product itself. I think we've only had, over the past few years, one interview, I think, on Explora. So excited to get your take on it here. So before we get to the ship itself, you're in the Houston area. Give me some pre-cruise thoughts. What made you want to hop over to Europe and take this transatlantic?
Well, it seemed like it just kind of fit for many different reasons. First of all, this was the third time we've been on Explora Journeys. We love it. It is probably very quickly becoming our favorite cruise line. The second reason is we love transatlantics. If you want to have a great reason to just throw life into neutral, man, it's a great opportunity. Plus, they're really good values. And the third is, quite frankly, this was during a time which we had some very ambitious travel plans. And it just seemed to fit because we had just finished a week in Europe, in Rome, with our family, and we had enough time to do this. And we actually sailed in to Miami on the same day that we were going to be walking from Terminal AA all the way to Terminal J to take a Oceania cruise to Amazon. So it seemed like all the circumstances, all the planets and stars all kind of aligned for us to be able to do here. So we booked it last year when we were on the Explorer 2.
I love it. Living the life. I got a question, though. What keeps you returning to Explora Journeys, like the brand itself?
You know, we were on the Explorer 1 on its inaugural year. We got a great deal to do that. And it is just one of those cruise lines that it just gives you everything. It is very much a luxury cruise. I'm not going to quite say it's an ultra luxury cruise that doesn't quite yet have those ultra luxury prices. The service is fantastic. The food is among the best we've had at sea. You have so many things that are inclusive with it. It's just as we have more and more ships coming to the fleet, you have more itineraries, it just seems like it fits us.
So what city did you embark in again? Was it Rome, you said?
Well, we were in Rome. We actually flew in the night before or the day before into Barcelona, and we got a hotel right there in the Gothic Quarter. We've been to Barcelona several times, so that day all we really did was we went down, we got some tapas, something to eat, repacked our bags, and got ready to go to the ship the next morning.
Okay, so MSC has a pretty big presence in Barcelona there. Are they using their new terminal yet?
They may be. We were actually going out of the WTC, or the World Trade Center South terminal. This is the one that if you've been to Barcelona, Montjuic, you can take the cable car up there. It actually overlooks that area. I think it's actually going to be closed by the end of the year, but we went out of that terminal.
Okay. So then you make your way to the terminal itself, and I noticed there is a lot of ferry traffic there as well. Is it an actual terminal as far as a physical building setup where we think of like a processing in Miami, or is it a little bit different?
It's an actual cruise terminal. We've gone out of there several times, kind of like going out to, well, quite frankly, Miami. A little bit longer walk from the curb to the actual building, but yeah, it's an actual terminal there.
Okay, and how long did it take you for embarkation from the curb to the ship?
Right about 30 minutes. Really, really smooth. It's the same type of boarding you're going to get anywhere. You go in through security. We did have to sit in kind of a waiting area for about 10 minutes. And then, we're called up. We got our key card. We're off to the ship. Very, very seamless.
I love it. So you've been on Explora before. Now, is Explora 1 and Explora 2, are they pretty similar in, like, we'll say carbon copies of each other for the most part?
They are identical except for one thing. On the Explorer 1, you have the Rolex shop where you don't have that on the Explorer 2.
Okay. Gotcha.
Outside of that, they're carbon copies.
Okay, so since you've been on before, like if someone was to walk in for the first time, what would be the first impressions, or what were your first impressions the first time you boarded an Explorer Journey ship?
Well, the first time we boarded it, it was fantastic, just like this time here. Well, in Barcelona, we actually came in on deck 5. and that is the deck that kind of wraps around the two-story lobby and lobby bar. And the focal point is the lobby bar. Has this two-story lit glass back that goes all the way up. It's just very, very elegant. It's not that kind of sleek Scandinavian design which you're going to get on like Viking or other cruises, but it really is just more like that Italian luxury hotel. And what I really loved was as you continue to move in, you go back by where they have one of the three Steinway pianos, by the way. You'll walk by it sometimes. It actually plays itself, which is pretty cool. But as you get back to that, instead of the piano playing, they had a violinist playing, and you're met with champagne at the time. That kind of reminded us back to our time when we first started cruising in 2005, where whether it was on Radisson or it was the NCL Spirit, you would get on and always was given a sparkling wine. It just makes you feel great.
So you make your way to your stateroom, or I guess we'll call it is it a stateroom, or is every room a suite on this?
You know, I don't know if you call it a suite. They call it an ocean terrace is what we're in, which is the most basic room they have. Basic is not really the right term for it since it has 377 square feet. So it was pretty nice.
So does that mean that every room has it's outside facing and there's no like interior cabins?
Yeah. So we're in the ocean terrace. It's the smallest room they have, and they all have terraces.
As far as like the space in the room for storage for your 16-night cruise, the size of the bathroom, the size of the balcony, how did that stack up?
Oh, I'll tell you, when you first go in, it's actually kind of deceptive because you think it's okay, it's a spacious veranda. I mean, it has the things you might think you're going to have. It's going to have a very comfortable king-size bed, has a really long desk that goes into a lot of storage on the desk, that area. You have a fully stocked wet bar. You have an espresso coffee maker, and that seems fine. It's not really a suite because it doesn't have that separate bedroom from the living room area. There is a small kind of faux bookcase that kind of separates it. But once you're on the room, you start realizing some things. And the first thing is the walk-in closet. I call it a walk-in closet because it's actually a little bit wide. It's really the passage to your bathroom. This is one of the nicest features I've seen on any cruise that we've been on. In that walk-in closet off to the right side, there's two wardrobes or open face. There's no doors on there. One is a half size. That's good. That's what I always use. It has enough room for me to put my shirts and my jacket. Bottom half, what you have is you have a Chester drawers, which has 6 drawers, really good sized drawers, 2 on each side. And then the 7th drawer up top goes across the entire Chester. There you have different dividers so you can put watches, you can put your jewelry, you can put different things in, and it's a glass top so you can see everything. As you continue going into the walk-in closet, that's where you have your full wardrobe where Tracy can put all of her dresses and things, plenty of room. And what Tracy really loves is the far end. You have another vanity, which has a lit mirror, has a place to sit. And if you open up the drawer of the vanity, you actually see there's a Dyson hairdryer, which Tracy really, really loves. And this is actually, once again, this is where you actually go into your bathroom. It's right there as you come off of the closet. And this is the reason why the closet doesn't feel like a closet. It is more kind of a passageway with storage. It has a really large bathroom, a large walk-in shower, which is great with the rainfall shower head. And then you have you only have one sink, but plenty of storage. But what I love is the heated floors. And that sounds like a gimmick until that first morning when you walk in the morning with your bare feet and you feel it and it says all is good. And then, of course, it is a balcony. The size is fairly large, but that's not the best part. What is the thing I love is the furniture. You have 2 really comfortable padded chairs. You have a large table that's good for room service, just like the table you have in your room, but you have a Chase lounge, which was absolutely fantastic to lay on as you're going down across the seas.
Let's talk about the food on the Explorer One, rather. And the buffet. What did you think of it? And I know the ship holds just under 1,000 people, so I am curious. Like with 900 and something people on board, does that area ever feel too crowded? And how is the food quality?
Well, the food is some of the best we've had at sea. And as far as the crowding, what is great is, yes, I think the max capacity or double capacity is 922. But the fact is I think the most we've ever sailed with is about 800. And I think this cruise had about 690. or $680, something like that. And the reason is because you have a lot of singles, because Explorer Journeys often will have no single supplement or maybe a very minor single supplement like 25%. So the only time you do feel kind of busy is that first embarkation day in the Emporium Marketplace. But we found it, so we go all the way to the back. The back is much like more of a sit-down area, which is good for kind of more like a sit-down restaurant. But as far as the food quality, it is amazing. My money is this is the best buffet at sea. Just you have all the different types of food you have there. You have the opportunity to get, because Explorer Journeys is owned by MSC, you have MSC Pizza, you have the pastas, you have the carve stations. And what we really love is you have your ceviche, which is made to order. You have lobster tails for dinner and sushi for lunch and dinner. And we have actually oysters in the half shell. And we're not too proud to admit that there's been times that we've had reservations at one of the other sit-down restaurants where Tracy and I will actually go up to the Emporium Marketplace, get a half order of oysters, and then go have dinner. So yeah, it's just a fantastic buffet.
Yeah, one thing I learned when I sailed seaborne a few years ago in Alaska is they don't like the word. They don't like when you use the word buffet on it. They like to call it like the marketplace or the cafe or whatever it is. But it definitely sounds like this isn't your typical quote unquote buffet with the amount of like lobster tails and fresh seafood on there.
They don't consider it a buffet because it has its own galley. And all the food is actually served to you as you're going through lines. So it's not self-serve like you have on most cruise lines.
As far as the main dining room, how does that play out? Like, is there an anytime? Is it set seating? And how was the food in there?
Once again, the food is great. However, they don't really kind of see themselves as a cruise line as opposed to a boutique hotel at sea. It's marketing, but in so many ways, they really kind of keep that up with it. Some of the things that's different is when you talk about a main dining room, which like you have in other cruise lines where you have a rotating menu of multiple different cuisines, Explorer Journeys actually doesn't have those on their ships. Instead, what you have is you have 4 complimentary specialty restaurants that you can go to. 2 of those you do not need reservations, although we recommend that if you go on and make a reservation anyway, because that way you can go and get in at the time you want. You don't need the reservations, but it just kind of helps out. And then you have 2 that you do need reservations on, and the limit of your reservations is usually at least 1 to a journey, although we're able to get 2 or 3 times at those. The 2 that you do not have to have reservations. The first one is Fil Rouge. This is a French-themed restaurant. What is really good food. I love the Dover sole. The scallop carpaccio, with caviar is very, very good. What's also nice about Fil Rouge is this is where you can have your sit-down breakfast every morning. The second non-reservation required restaurant is your Med Yacht Club, which, as you might imagine, is where you have your Mediterranean food. The ossobuco is great there. The risotto is great there. Everything's really good. And what's interesting about it is, on sea days, if you want a sit-down restaurant for lunch, that's where you can go. Then you have the 2 you need reservations for. The first is Sakura, which is your Asian restaurant. Now, even though it's Asian, they do have things such as lamb chops and that. So even if you don't like Asian food, there is things you can eat there. For our money, that is our favorite food venue on the Explorer Journeys. And also during port days, that's where you can go get like a beito bunch or sushi for lunch. And the fourth of these sit-down restaurants is Marble & Company. That is your steak restaurant. That's really good. But I'll tell you, as good as it is, that's kind of ranks as kind of 4 of 4 for us on here.
With these restaurants, you mentioned you can make the reservations once, sometimes twice in your case per cruise. Is everything included, or are there little upcharges on the bottom? Say, hey, if you want it done or prepared this way, it's a little bit like, $10 extra.
I think maybe in Marble & Company, you might have some of your aged steaks, which is a supplement to. Mm-hmm. But for all the others, I don't remember supplements. There is one restaurant that is for fee, and that's Anthology. The original idea for that is Explorer Journeys would bring in a Michelin-starred chef. They would be on for a couple of cruises and training maybe another chef and the cooks on how to cook those Michelin-starred menus, and that's what they would do, and they cycle through that. They've changed that now. Now what that is, it's a high-end Italian restaurant, which is actually created by the Explorer's chief of culinary. The problem is, it's like $270 per person. And with so many free food choices. Tracy and I have actually never ate there, so I can't tell you anything about Anthology except for it's really expensive.
What about grab and go places, either like a grill by the pool or a coffee shop or anything like that?
The coffee shop is great. That's the Crema Cafe. And just like your non-premium drinks, whether that is whiskeys or soft drinks or beer or wine, those are all included. All your specialty coffees are also included. That's a very comfortable place. You can get snacks throughout the day, but the only problem I see is there's really not a lot of casual or late night dining venues. So outside of the Crema Cafe, outside of the marketplace, you do have a gelateria and a creperie. Not only can you get gelato and crepes, but also really good malts, which I love. But its times are limited to daytime. So basically after 7 o'clock, the only place to get food is room service, which is actually pretty decent. And we did that several times for lunch. And it took about 30 to 40 minutes for us to get there. Or you can go to the Explorer Lounge, which is their forward-facing floor-to-ceiling window lounge. It was really beautiful. You're going to have your afternoon teas there. You do have a limited room service menu that you can actually order right there in the lounge.
Let's talk about the entertainment on board Explorer One. Now, you mentioned that you've sailed like MSC cruises, Princess in the past. So I'm curious, how does the entertainment stack up against the other cruise lines, or is it its own unique kind of entertainment?
Whenever you get to kind of the smaller cruise lines, the one problem you're going to have, or at least an issue you're going to have, is if you're expecting these big production shows, you're not going to get that. But you don't have a huge theater like you have on other ships, but you don't have a huge number of passengers in either. So you do go into the Journeys Lounge. First thing you look at is, instead of that theater-styled seating, it's all individual chairs and small tables. So it really feels more like a cocktail lounge rather than what you would see in most ships. The production cast, I will say, is okay. Usually they're good talents. I mean, they can sing, they can dance, they can do those things, but largely what you're going to do is you're going to get those review type of shows. Where we really get some great music on this cruise was the special guest they have. We did have a magician. He was really entertaining, but we also had Nathan James. Nathan James was the lead vocalist for the classic rock band Inglorious, and also did singing with Trans-Siberian Orchestra, where they got like a couple platinum records. He was fantastic, incredibly charismatic, great voice, and what I loved about it, because Tracy and I are both in our 50s. In fact, today is my birthday. I'm 58 today. He sung 80s music, which was awesome. So the kind of nighttime entertainment was really, really great. The other thing about having a small ship is you see him, especially on a long cruise like this. You actually get to meet your guest entertainers. So we would see him around. He was very approachable, and it just seems that you kind of get to know the people on the ship.
When you started sailing Explorer Journeys, were there any unique activities that you weren't expecting?
The level of the enrichment speakers kind of surprised me. We've been on some, and they're decent. What we had for this was incredible. Not only we did have a marine biologist, she was good, but she was kind of what we expect. But then we had the manager at the art gallery. Oddly enough, she actually did a talk about art thefts, the history of art thieves, which is very good. But the standout was Leo Rossi. Leo Rossi is a gentleman who, in the 1970s, he started off as an electrical assistant for the band Fleetwood Mac. And he would be with them for like 20 years with the band until he actually was the touring manager. So while we were on the sea days doing the crossing, twice a day he would have talks, not only about his time with Fleetwood Mac and the issues that they had during rumors and that, but he also did work with Prince and others. So he was just fantastic. And not only was he there, he actually had some of his roadies that worked with him on there as well. So you get those different perspectives of what it would be behind the scenes of one of the most iconic rock shows in the world. Additionally to that is we are able to do their culinary program, the Chef's Kitchen. Loved it. Now, I know other cruise lines have this. This is where you go in and you have a chef, you have an assistant, and they teach you on how to make different meals. The space is beautiful. Each person has its own cooking station, looking at the chef as he's actually showing you how to do these things. Behind you are these floor-to-ceiling windows as you're watching this the ocean going by. It was fantastic. What is even better is, and when you're done, you go into the next room, which is the private dining room, and you actually eat what you make. And even though Tracy and I made the food, it was actually really, really good. Our recommendation, do it. It's not that expensive. It's like $125 per person, which is about what a ship excursion might be. What we loved is the fact is, do it at 10 o'clock in the morning, because by the time you're done with your food, it's about 11:30, and you have a really good meal. You're sitting there talking to one of the chefs. It really was a great opportunity.
Strolling the ship at night, so outside of the theater, what kind of entertainment might you find around the ship?
You don't get a lot of individual acts. You will have karaoke. It would be in the stern lounge, which is in the back of the ship, as you might think. You would have, trivia. We're always there for trivia. You would have like I said, your enrichment speakers. Those are good. What I love is going into the lounge and having, if you go up to the Explorer Lounge and having tea. You have, sometimes as a pianist, in this case, they actually had a string a quartet that would be there. That was always really great.
You had a lot of sea days on this transatlantic cruise, and you mentioned that it never really felt crowded in the Emporium marketplace there. How did the ship feel on sea days as far as, I even hate to say crowds and congestion, but we'll go with that?
Yeah, there are no crowds. That's what I just love. Again, we were like on a cruise ship with just 690 people. It's a pretty decent sized ship. But it also is just, they spread out to where you are. For like on the sea days, if you want to go to the pool, your biggest problem was how crowded it was going to be, is which pool are you going to go to? Because there are actually four pools on the ship. The one I love is the conservatory. It's huge. It has hot tubs. In fact, there's a total of 5 hot tubs on board. So really, you never felt crowded at all.
What do you think it is? Like, why do you think they're not filling these ships to capacity? Because our last interview we had on it, I think it was Explorer 2, it was just a little over half capacity. Do you think that maybe just the word's not out yet about the Explorer brand?
I don't think so. I think it's one of two things, because we've actually talked to, on a different sailing, we were talking to the captain, we were talking to whatever they call their cruise director. And what they told us was they realized that, I think that it would be crowded if it was total of 922. Some of the spaces would be a little too crowded. The lobby bar is an example. As much as I love the lobby and the lobby bar, there's not a lot of seating. So that gets a little crowded right before dinner, but there's a lot of other lounges you can go to. But I think what we were told is they understand that, so they are not necessarily trying to pack at 100% capacity. And the second reason is, I think how they're trying to mitigate that is because they are so attractive to single passengers. So when you have those rooms that are taken up by singles, you're actually reducing what the number of capacity or the number of passengers on the ship.
Man, I bet that lecturer with Fleetwood Mac has some stories to tell.
Oh yes, some great stories. Some great stories,
and probably some he will never tell too. That's
He told us he was not going to go into the he wasn't going to be in gossip.
Sure,
he wasn't going to be in gossip, but he told a lot about, especially the Rumors album. That was when basically both of the couples were breaking up. All of that. He told that story. What was going on. He talked about a lot of things behind the scenes, but he didn't, these people are basically his friends. So he wasn't there to basically dish on them. It was basically to help understand them.
The casino, as far as the smoke situation, or I don't even remember, can you smoke in this casino?
You cannot. Okay. Now, we're not gamblers, but I'll tell you, if you're a big gambler, this is probably not your ship. It does have a casino. It's very small. It has maybe 2 or 3 table games like, poker or blackjack. You have slots, but it's not a huge casino. It's right outside of the theater, and it's not smoking.
Okay, so before we get to the ports of call here, because you sound very well traveled, do you, when you're booking an itinerary and you're like, oh, we're going here, maybe we should check this out, do you look at these ship's excursions first, or do you do everything like DIY and independent?
We don't do everything DIY. We do look at Obviously, we'll look at the itinerary where we're going. That's probably the biggest driver. Then, quite frankly, then it's cost, because it has to be. What we will usually do is, if it is a port which we can, like especially like in Europe, where we can do everything, walking that city ourselves, we're going to do that ourselves. Any of the other places, if we're going to be going somewhere else, often what we'll do is we'll do with a ship's excursion, or we'll do with a like Viator or another excursion. But for this, we didn't do any of those. We did ship's excursions, and we attempted one day on our own, but the rain got us.
Yes, let's talk about these ports. You had a handful here on the 16 nights. So you leave Barcelona. What was your first port of call, and what did you do?
Well, I got a haircut. The first one was Cadiz. And what our initial plan was we're going to get up off the ship as soon as we can. We're going to go on our own and take the train up to Seville because we hadn't been there. But the problem was twofold. One was it was raining cats and dogs, and it was a Sunday. So we thought, okay, we're not going to go all the way to Seville just to get drenched and come back. So what we did is we walked off the ship. We walked into town. Yes, it was Sunday. Most stuff was closed, but frankly, I got a haircut. I had been traveling for 7 weeks at this point, so I kind of needed a haircut. And then we went back up onto the ship.
At this point, you're at Cadiz. I'm sure you started your transatlantic journey. So what was your first port as you leave Cadiz?
Yeah, that was Funchal. And Funchal or Madeira, we'd been there several times. And the one thing we hadn't done, we hadn't been on the other side of the island. So this is one of the times we used our excursion credit, and we went on the Madeiran Mountains and Rum Distillery. This was good. We really enjoyed this. Had a good guide. A lot of times you get the guides that just will talk because they feel that if they're not talking, they're not giving you what you need. She understood that kind of balance. The bus had plenty of empty spaces, so it wasn't like a cattle car hauling people around. It was a beautiful island, able to go on that. The rum wasn't really that great, but the role point with us was to go to the island. The other thing we liked was it wasn't very expensive, which is great. And here we kind of look at Explorer Journeys has really inexpensive excursions. They have some very expensive excursions, or at least overpriced. This was one, I think it was like $85 a person, which we got what we wanted. But some of the others are a little bit more expensive than what I think they're used. So you have to kind of look at that. The other thing why we really did a lot more excursions than we usually do is we had a lot of excursion credit because we had booked previously online. And the biggest problem we had is when we first went online to choose our excursions online, we went to book, and then they asked for a credit card number. And what probably would have happened is they would have refunded our credit, but we didn't know. So we said, okay, we're going to wait until we get on the ship. First day on, we go, get our champagne. We go to the excursions desk where we were told, I'm sorry, because you didn't book these online, you can't use your excursion ticket or your excursion credit. So we felt we were kind of in choice. Now, they met it right. But the problem is they really need to do a better job of kind of communicating what the process is before you do so.
So moving on then, after Funchal, where'd you go?
We went to Antigua and Barbuda.
So you had a good stretch of sea days between those two places.
Yeah, I think 6 or 7 days, something like that. So we did not complain. We really do. Like, this is our fourth. I think this is our fourth transatlantic, not counting going across the Atlantic in 2023 on a world cruise.
Yep.
So we loved it.
I was going to ask, how do you pass the days, like when you have 6 and 7 days in a row?
Well, the great thing we love about transatlantics or any sea days is you can make it as busy or as relaxing as you want. And we kind of split a difference. First thing we do is we usually only eat 2 meals a day because otherwise you start putting on more pounds than we really want to. Mm-hmm. So what we usually do is instead is we get up in the morning, we go to the gym, we work out, and then we treat ourselves with going to the spa. What is great about Explorer Journeys is the thermal spa is completely complimentary for everyone, and it's a beautiful spa area. You have a thalassotherapy pool, which Explorer Journeys will actually count as their 5th pool, but actually really, really nice. You have your saunas, your steams. You have your ceramic loungers that you can be on. It's just really great. After that, we go back to the room. And generally what we'll do is for the rest of the day, we'll have lunch, we'll go swimming, we'll go on that chase lounge and read until trivia time. play trivia, and then, you start with that dinner and then entertainment. So that's then it's rinse and repeat each day as you go by. What's really interesting is they could put a premium on fitness. You can do fitness classes. They do have yoga. What also is we go to the gym. We usually go to the inside gym, but they actually have an outside gym up by the Sky Lounge. So you can be doing on a rowing machine or on a bike up there as you're watching the seas go by, which is really good. And you're in the wind and the air, which is great.
You made your way across. You're at Antigua and Barbuda. How was your day there?
We were trying to think about yesterday. I think we did it. I can't remember which excursion we did. We did a catamaran cruise. And the one that we were looking at is they're talking about how they have different levels where you basically have very inexpensive or at least reasonably priced, such as what we did in Funchal. They did have a catamaran with champagne and lobster we looked at, but it was way too expensive. The funny thing is our next cruise, we went there, they had the exact same excursion for much, much cheaper. But anyway, we did like a 3 hour catamaran cruise and called it a day.
So then your next port of call was what, and what did you do?
British Virgin Islands and BVI, and we went to Tortola, and we did the Jos van Dyke Island Escape.
Love it.
This was about 6 hours. There's about an hour each way getting there. You're going these windy roads here. You have about 4 hours at the beach. During that time, they have things to eat. You do get coupons for 2 alcohol drinks each, which is great. And that's once again kind of goes back into what's normal. I think we paid about $130, $135 per person for that.
Isn't Jos van Dyke the coolest spot?
It is. It's just a really neat place. It seemed remote in a good way. You're let off, you walk down the beach to where you have, and it's a beautiful beach, beautiful area here, and you just feel like you're kind of like one of the first people who have been there for a while.
And it looks like Puerto Rico was up next?
Yeah, San Juan was next. Now, we had, the month prior, we had actually been on 2 cruises that went there, and we knew that we were going to San Juan on the next cruise. So, quite frankly, we simply walked downtown into the old town. We found a place to get a drink, hung out, walked around a little bit, and we came back to the ship.
So kind of treated it as an extended sea day of sorts, I guess you can call it.
Yes.
All right, so after San Juan, Puerto Rico, did you end the cruise in Miami?
Ended in Miami, yes.
Okay, and how was the debark there?
It was effortless. It was really easy. Because we were having to make that walk from Terminal AA all the way to Terminal J, which is on the complete opposite side of the pier area or the terminal area. We did get off a little bit later. That way we're not going to get to the Terminal J too early for our next cruise. But that was probably the hardest thing. The actual disembarkation itself was actually very seamless. Walked off, got our luggage, and started trucking all the way over to Terminal J.
So is a ship like this, so you get off, you're heading over to Terminal J for your next sailing. Is it doing a turn and burn? Like, was it repositioning to Miami for a series of 7 or 14 nights, or is it constantly on the go?
Constantly on the go, but they were going to stay. This was a repositioning, so they were going to be staying in the Caribbean area for the next several months. Actually, let me backtrack from that. Sometimes what they'll do is they'll actually go out of Barbados. Sometimes they'll go out of Puerto Rico. So you have different things. They don't necessarily always go out of Miami. Sometimes when you go into the Caribbean, you might be picking up on one of those 2 locations.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering, because my buddy who sailed it started in San Juan and ended in Miami. So I didn't know if it was different pickup points or embark points along the way.
It's not like doing MSC in Europe, where basically you have kind of the bus route. You're picking up everyone every day. So, but you do have different places and stops where you go.
So do you have any first-time tips to offer for anyone considering sailing either Explora One or the Explora Journeys brand?
The first one is to remember that, Explorer Journeys is owned by MSC, and just like MSC has status match, so does Explorer Journeys. Now, Explorer Journeys is only, for the most part, is only going to status match with MSC, and then your luxury cruise lines such as Regent, Silversea, some of your small ship lines such as Oceania, also some of your, I think they have matching with some of your luxury hotels as well. But what you do is you status match to MSC first with your highest, and then you use that MSC to status match to Explorer Journeys.
With the chef's table, I am curious because I just did it a couple of weeks ago on a Carnival Cruise Line ship. I understand completely different demographic and experience, but this was like right around the 3-hour mark, which sometimes could be a little too long for me. How was it paced on the chef's table on Explora?
Yeah, the culinary education.
Mm-hmm.
It's about the whole thing. You're probably there for about 2.5 hours, but it goes by quick. I mean, the first hour and a half, you're cooking. You know, you're just following along with the chef. You're trying to figure out, okay, what ingredient he put in, make sure I did it right. And then after that, like I said, you go to the private dining room, and then you're just relaxing, and you're talking, you're eating what you had. And at that point, you can stay as long as you want and talk, or you can leave. So I thought the pacing was actually pretty good.
Looking back, what was the biggest highlight of this cruise for y'all?
I mean, there's so many things. I mean, first of all, there was Leo Rossi, just being able to spending time on the great ship. But quite frankly, I think it is the people we met. Our two couples that we got together that first day for trivia, we have actually become friends. We've actually, one couple we just did a cruise just a couple months ago with. And then the other couple, as well as both couples, we're doing the exact same cruise next year with. So I think that's one of the great things about cruising is it is absolutely the most social type of travel. And when you're on a small ship like that, you get that time, especially on a transatlantic, you really have the time to get the new people and make new friends. I really think that was the big highlight.
Did you find that it was mostly a North American demographic?
Mostly North American. You are going to have probably a little bit more Europeans because MSC is large there. We had some Germans, we had some Brits. I'm thinking of other nationalities, but we had some Dutch couples that are on there. But yeah, it is predominantly going to be, at least on our time, on the 3 cruises we've been on Explora in the Caribbean, is pretty much North American dominated.
Who is most likely to appreciate this product?
If you are the type of individual who you like the production shows, if you like to have your kids go on the slides and everything, that's not you. What I think this is best for is if you like, right now, you're the person that does the yacht club, if you do the Haven, and you're looking for something that maybe you don't really care about those two things, about the water slides or the production shows, this is absolutely the place you need to go to. I think that when you compare the Haven or the MSC Yacht Club, dollar for dollar, day for day, I think you're getting a lot more about it because although we talked about your excursions are not included, pretty much everything once you get on the ship isn't included, and you either can have that ship in the ship or you can have the entire ship for actually cheaper money.
That was actually my next question about the value proposition there, because you mentioned that Shorex wasn't included. So like the beverages, the Wi-Fi, gratuities, all of that is included already. And the thermal suite was included as well?
Yes, absolutely. And
Nice.
let me tell you about some of the Wi-Fi. It wasn't quite as fast on this. I tested it, and we were running about 20 to 30 megabits per second for the Wi-Fi. When we were on the Explorer 2, which is a year older, we actually were getting like 120. So you have complete streaming, Wi-Fi that's free. Once again, you have your spa. You have so much more that's actually included on that.
We didn't talk about this, but you mentioned that they claim that the thermal spa pool, the Theralossotherapy pool, is their 5th pool. Where are the other 4 pools around the ship?
Well, you have the conservatory. That's the one that has the retracting roof. It's just great if it's raining. You have the Helios pool that is up forward. When you have more children on the ship, that is always kind of it's supposed to be used for the adults only pool. We have only, I think the most number of kids we've had on the ship for our 3 cruises was like 12 maybe. And I think there was 2 kids on this sailing. In the back, you have the stern pool, and then you have the atoll pool. The stern pool is right outside on deck 5, I believe, and then up on, I think it's deck 9, you have the atoll pool.
Wow, so quite a few pools for only being under 1,000 passenger ship. That's very nice. If there were a lot of kids on board, let's say it was like a multi-generational vacation with a big family, are there adults-only spaces aside from that pool you mentioned?
It's hard to answer because we just never had a lot of kids.
Okay,
so
fair
it was
enough.
never an issue. But I will tell you, this is a cruise line, and MSC as a corporation is very family friendly. I know on the Explorer 3, they're enlarging their kids club. But quite frankly, this is a good place for small kids, not necessarily for teenagers. There's not a lot of things for them to do. So I can't answer your question, Doug. I'm sorry.
No worries.
If they expand that, but yeah.
Okay. Well, let's see. In closing here, your final thoughts of the Explorer 1.
Absolutely hooked. One of the best values. It's not cheap. I think we averaged about $750 per day for the two of us. So it's not really cheap, but it's a great value. We love the food. We love the crew. We love the rooms. And when you're talking about when your base room is 377 square feet, it's just really hard to beat at any price.
Did you compare this if you were to sail in the yacht club or the Haven or that sanctuary complex on Princess?
We've only done the Haven and the yacht club. I will tell you, the food is far superior on Explorer Journeys than it is on either two lines. Any of the restaurants will go head to head with the best of the specialty restaurants on NCL, probably be better than most. And, it's among the best food we've had. Service is very, very good. The spaces seem nicer. And the fact of the matter is instead of having like a small pool like what you have on most of the Havens, you have, 4 different pools to pick from. It's great to have the whole ship instead of just a portion of it.
All right. We've been talking with Jan about his 16-night sailing on the Explorer Journeys, Explorer 1. And Jan, you have a YouTube channel over there. Am I getting this correct? Is it Jan and Tracy Travels?
Jan and Tracy Travels. Tracy spelled with an EY. Small channel. We just went over 4,000 subscribers. But yeah, we have a video coming out every Saturday. Most of it is cruiser related. And then this cruise will probably be coming out in about 4 weeks, I think.
Okay, well, we'll link to that where you're listening to your podcast. Just check out the show notes. That's Jan and Tracy Travels. Jan, thank you so much for spending some time with us today. And happy birthday, too.
Thank you very much. Doug, this has been a great birthday present, so thank you.
Just back from a cruise? Let's talk about it. Email Doug at cruiseradio.net.
A big question we get at Cruise Radio is, how do I know if I need trip insurance? Simple answer. If you're getting on a plane, taking a road trip, or getting on a cruise ship, you need to have travel insurance. Hey, it's Doug Parker from my friends at tripinsurance.com. Not only does tripinsurance.com protect your vacation investment, but it also gives you peace of mind in case anything were to go wrong on your trip. How do they do it? They offer 3 different types of trip insurance policies. Good, better, and best. One policy for every vacation budget. But it doesn't just stop there. They're up to 40% lower when you shop around on other comparison sites. Plus, tripinsurance.com offers 24-hour customer support before, during, and after your trip, online claims assistance, and travel alerts to let you know what's going on at your destination. But find out for yourself. Check out tripinsurance.com.
All right, Dougie, let's see what we got for you, buddy. Cruise Radio is produced at the tripinsurance.com studios in Jacksonville, Florida. Get cruise news, ship reviews, and money-saving tips every Thursday on Cruise Radio. If you've enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to the show. If you want to help spread the word, give Cruise Radio a 5-star review. Find Cruise Radio where you listen to your favorite podcast or online at cruiseradio.net. I'm your announcer,